Okay, let's unpack this a bit. We often think about laws as, the things you can't do, the boundaries.
Right, the restrictions.
Exactly. But what if those same laws are actually, sort of, the hidden architects of the whole business world, influencing, well, everything we see on the shelves, the services we use?
Hmm.
Today, we're really digging into this article, Understanding Legal Environment of Business, Key to Consumer Choice and Market Dynamics.
Yeah, and it's not about getting bogged down in legal jargon. Forget the dusty textbooks.
Definitely not.
No.
We want to pull out how these laws, these regulations, are basically the DNA of how businesses operate.
And it's so much more than just, keeping companies out of trouble. It's fascinating how this complex legal web directly shapes things for you, the consumer.
How so?
Well, it dictates the choices you have, the quality you can expect,
Yeah.
even how fair the prices are. It's like getting a backstage pass, really, to understand the rule book businesses play by.
A hidden rule book, I like that. And our mission today, using this great article by Vinayak Bali over at Cognitive Market Research, it was updated just last September 2024, is to get to the heart of how this legal environment shapes businesses and, well, by extension, your daily life, as a shopper, as someone in the economy.
Precisely.
So, where's a good place to start seeing the real world impact? How do these laws actually, work on the ground?
Well, a really natural starting point is just looking at the nuts and bolts,
Mm.
how businesses function day to day.
Okay.
The article makes it really clear the legal environment sets up the basic framework for how they operate. And it's broad. It covers everything from, say, environmental standards.
Like how green a factory has to be.
Exactly, to labor laws, things like wages, working hours, safety on the job.
Right, we see that impact. An
Yeah.
environmental reg forces a company to invest in cleaner tech or minimum wage changes affect prices. That's the legal environment in action.
It is. And it's not just those big things. The article also mentions product safety standards. They're like silent guardians for us consumers.
Hmm.
And things like corporate governance laws, pushing for transparency, for accountability, and how companies are run.
So is all this compliance, is it just a pain for businesses, just hurdles to jump over, or is there more to it?
It's definitely more complex than just being a roadblock. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, there are costs involved in following the rules,
Sure.
but the article really stresses that compliance is also kind of a powerful shield. It helps businesses avoid really expensive legal fights, big fines, and crucially, damage to their reputation.
Yeah, you can imagine like a food company ignoring safety rules. The backlash could be devastating.
Totally catastrophic. And connecting it to strategy, the legal environment actually guides big decisions too. Things like mergers, buying other companies, even figuring out how to enter a new market overseas.
Ah, okay, so it's not just playing defense, it's also about knowing the rules of the road to make smarter moves.
Precisely.
Now, the article really hammers home this idea of legal compliance. Why is staying within the law consistently so vital beyond just, avoiding the fines?
Well, beyond the obvious hit to the wallet if you don't comply, legal compliance does something else, something the article points out quite clearly. It fosters a culture of accountability.
Okay.
And maybe even more importantly, it builds trust. Think about it. When a business consistently acts ethically, follows the rules.
People notice.
Exactly. It strengthens their relationships across the board. With customers who feel safer using their products, with employees who feel more secure, with investors who see stability. Even with the regulators themselves, it can lead to a less adversarial relationship.
That makes a lot of sense. If a company always follows data privacy rules, you're much more likely to trust them with your info.
Right. And the article gives good examples. Strong consumer protection laws mean safer, better products, which leads to happier customers, right?
Loyalty.
And good labor laws create a fairer, safer workplace. That boosts morale, productivity.
Hmm.
It's all connected.
So, what happens when companies don't comply? What are the downsides the article mentions?
The downsides can be pretty severe. The article talks about a kind of domino effect. You could miss out on business opportunities, get tangled in long, expensive legal battles,
Ouch.
suffer serious harm to your reputation. And in the worst cases, it could even mean shutting down the business entirely.
Wow. So it's really fundamental.
It is. It's
Yeah.
not just checking a box. It's
Yeah.
core to survival and success. And the article suggests being proactive is key things like proper training for employees on the rules, having solid internal compliance programs, and monitoring constantly to make sure you're sticking to them.
So embedding it in the company culture, not just reacting after the fact.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've seen how the legal stuff helps businesses stay on track, build trust. But it also helps manage something every business deals with: risk. How does the law function as a sort of risk management tool?
That's a really interesting angle, how something external, the law, becomes an internal tool.
Yeah.
The article explains that by understanding the legal framework, companies can get ahead of the game. They can identify potential risks, figure out how serious they are, and then build strategies to lessen them.
What kind of risks are we talking about?
Oh, all sorts. The risk of being sued, obviously,
Yeah.
but also risks from changes in regulations, problems in employee relations, disputes over intellectual property like patents or trademarks, even just unclear contracts.
So knowing the rules lets you see the potential pitfalls. The article had examples, right? Like well-written contract.
Exactly. A solid contract can prevent a lot of arguments later. And really understanding intellectual property law helps protect your innovations, your brand. That's huge.
Makes sense.
And it applies to employment law, too. Knowing the rules about hiring, firing, workplace conditions that dramatically reduces the risk of things like wrongful termination suits.
Right.
Plus, the article points out just staying informed about new or changing regulations lets businesses adjust before they get hit with penalties. So good risk management here often means getting legal advice, having ways to resolve disputes, doing regular compliance checks.
Integrating it all.
Yeah, integrating legal thinking into your overall risk strategy. It protects your assets, your reputation, and ultimately your profits.
Okay, so the legal environment shapes operations, ensures compliance, helps manage risks. What about the bigger picture, the market itself? How do laws help create a fair, competitive marketplace?
This is where things like antitrust laws or competition laws come in. They're really important.
How so?
Well, the article highlights how these laws aim to create a level playing field, so all businesses, big or small, have a fair shot.
Right.
They specifically target things like monopolies, where one company dominates unfairly, or cartels, where companies secretly collude.
And other shady stuff.
Yeah, things like predatory pricing, dropping prices super low just to kill off competitors, or agreements to divide up markets, or fixing prices together.
Those are the things that really hurt consumers in the end. Limit choice, drive up prices.
Exactly. So when these competition laws are actually enforced, it forces companies to compete fairly, on merit, based on the quality of their product, their price, how innovative they are.
Not just because they have unfair power.
Right. And in that kind of competitive market, who benefits most? Usually it's us, the consumers.
Well,
More choice, better value. Plus, it pushes all businesses to keep improving.
makes sense. What else contributes to market integrity?
The article also mentions securities laws. These are crucial for making sure financial markets are fair and transparent.
Our investors.
Primarily, yes. By making public companies report their financial situation accurately and on time, these laws protect investors from fraud or manipulation. It builds trust in the whole system.
So all these different laws together,
Yeah.
they help create a more dynamic, competitive economy overall.
That's the idea the article puts forward, yes. It benefits lots of different people.
Okay, so understanding all this legal stuff isn't just about staying out of trouble or being fair. It seems like it could actually give a smart business an edge, right? A strategic advantage.
Absolutely. That's a really key takeaway. Knowing the legal lay of the land lets businesses make smarter choices, navigate the rules more effectively.
How does that translate into an advantage?
Well, the article points out that this legal knowledge helps you spot opportunities and avoid risks. That leads to running things more smoothly, more efficiently.
Any examples jump out from the article?
Yeah, a couple of good ones. If you really get intellectual property law, you can protect your inventions, sure, but you can also use patents and trademarks strategically to stand out from competitors.
Okay.
Or if you're sharp on contract law, you can negotiate better deals with your suppliers, your partners, even your customers.
Right. Better terms.
And another thing the article mentions is anticipating changes in regulations. If you see a new rule coming down the pike.
You can prepare.
Exactly. Adapt your business early. Avoid the disruption your competitors might face. You might even get known as a leader in compliance, which boosts your reputation.
Interesting. Proactive adaptation.
Yeah. And of course, knowing the law helps you spot and manage potential liabilities, which is critical for staying sustainable long term. Basically, weaving legal thinking into your core strategy can help you find opportunities others miss. Maybe understanding trade law opens up a new export market you hadn't considered.
So it really reinforces that a solid legal footing isn't just a cost, it's an asset. It can actually drive growth.
That's a great way to put it.
So thinking long term then, what are the big benefits businesses see when they really invest in building this strong legal foundation?
The article really emphasizes that a strong legal framework is fundamental for long-term success. Sustainability, expansion, just overall prosperity.
How does it protect them?
Well, fundamentally, it protects the company's assets. That could be intellectual property, like patents or contracts they rely on, or even physical property. Clear legal rights mean fewer disputes, less chance of expensive lawsuits down the road.
And it's not just about protecting stuff, is it? What about reputation?
Absolutely crucial. A strong legal foundation sends a powerful message. This company is ethical, it's responsible, that builds trust, which, as we said, is invaluable for attracting investors, keeping good employees, and winning loyal customers.
Makes sense. People want to associate with trustworthy companies.
Definitely. And another key long-term benefit the article touches on is adaptability. Regulations change, laws evolve.
All the time.
Right. A company with a solid legal grounding is better equipped to navigate those changes, stay compliant. Plus, it makes expanding easier, whether it's into new regions domestically or going international, because you have a process for understanding the legal requirements elsewhere.
So it's really an investment.
A long-term investment, exactly. It provides security, allows for sustainable growth, protects against risks, and just creates overall stability.
Okay. Now, just before we wrap up, I saw something labeled fast fact in the article. Mentioned a little dip in legal demand growth back in late 2022 after it had been growing quite a bit. How might that connect to what we've been discussing? Does it tell us anything?
That's an interesting point to bring up. The article doesn't spell out the why behind that dip, but we can definitely speculate a bit based on our chat.
Like what?
Well, it could just reflect wider economic shifts. Maybe businesses facing uncertainty pulled back a bit on legal spending temporarily.
Okay, tightening the belt?
Could be. Or maybe legal services got more efficient, or there was a period where regulations weren't changing quite as fast, leading to less immediate demand. Whatever the reason, it kind of highlights that the legal environment and how businesses interact with it isn't static. It ebbs and flows with the economy, with business strategies. It just reinforces that need for businesses to stay aware and be ready to adapt, not just to the current rules, but to how the whole landscape might shift.
Good point. Okay, so let's quickly recap the big ideas from this deep dive.
Sounds good.
We've talked about how the legal environment really sets the stage, the basic framework for how businesses operate.
The foundation.
We stressed how vital legal compliance is not just avoiding penalties, but building trust and managing risk.
Right, building that culture of integrity.
We also looked at how laws help keep the market fair and competitive, which is ultimately good for consumers.
Protecting market integrity, yeah.
And finally, we saw that knowing the legal landscape isn't just defensive, it can actually be a strategic tool for growth and long-term success.
Leveraging that knowledge for an advantage and for sustainability.
Exactly. And hopefully for you listening, this gives you a better sense of those sort of invisible legal forces shaping the business world around us.
Yeah, hopefully it empowers you to be a more informed consumer, a sharper observer of how markets work.
So here's something to think about. Next time you buy something or deal with a company, just pause for a second. Think about all those legal rules working behind the scenes, aiming for fairness, safety, accountability. And consider this. What happens when those rules are strong and well enforced? And what happens when they're weak or easy to get around? It really has huge implications, doesn't it?
It absolutely does, for everyone.
This has really just scratched the surface of a super complex but vital part of our economy. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive.